Hey everybody, decided to give some attention to the Yamaha Grizzly 600. It's been a while since I've done anything to this thing, and I got a couple of little problems that have been bothering me. One of which is the pull start cord is not retracting. I don't use the pull start cord on this thing because this thing's got so much compression. It wants to tear your knuckles, your fingers out at the knuckles when you try and use it. And the second issue I've had for a while on this thing is that the needle, the float needle in the carburetor doesn't seal 100%. So it runs okay, but when you shut it off, if you don't shut the gas off, it'll start dripping gas out of the carburetor. And if you make the mistake of leaving it on for a long period of time, you can actually waste quite a bit of gas. So that's just probably a matter of cleaning the seat on the carburetor and maybe adjusting the float. I'm not quite sure yet until I get it apart. And what spurred me to finally tackle these problems is that the last time I went to start it, I couldn't get it to start and run correctly. And I've run into this problem before where I've got water getting into my fuel because damn squirrels or chipmunks went to town and chewed this cap. They chewed the nipple right off the cap that the little hose, the vent hose, attaches to. So you can literally see all the teeth marks from what's going on here. And I got several other items around here on the property that these damn rodents have gone to town on. I don't know if that was a squirrel or a chipmunk. It looked too big to be a field mouse, but that's what they did. So I was just about to get started on this when my son Aiden showed up. Aiden? Hi. So I figure maybe I'll just talk him through this. All right, let's do what's probably going to be the easier thing to do first, because I don't really care about fixing this so that it works again to pull it. I mainly want to at least just get it so that this cord is retracted back in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this assembly off. You see there's a screw missing here? The one already missing? Mm-hmm. So we're just going to take the few more that are left out, which these are going to be metric. So I brought out my 1/4-inch metric drive set. So play around in here and find a socket that'll fit that. Okay, and then you can use the extension. I would use this long extension because then you can hold the wrench like this and get more leverage, okay? Yeah. There you go. What you can do is when you get it like that, loose, look, take this off, and then put this on here like this, and do this, and this is like kind of like a nut driver. If you slip and your fingers go crashing into something hard and it hurts, it's called the knuckle buster. It happens.
It smells like something's leaking over here. It smells like motor oil.
I don't. All I smell is the outdoor, our neighbor's outdoor boiler. Stinks to high heaven.
It's all rusty in here.
Well, not surprised. Water goes into that opening on the top there.
Oh, yeah, that fell.
What the heck are you doing?
It fell.
All right.
I think
so,
that's spring.
yeah, it could be the spring, could be broken, or it could be just seized. Yeah, see how it's kind of really sticking?
Bearing?
Yeah. See all that rust around that screw right there.
Want to take that out?
Yeah, why don't you see if you can find the one that fits that? So that's a lot of rust right there. What's been happening is because this has been hanging out like this for so long, water's been running right down there like a funnel, probably running right into here. All right, listen, so we take this apart carefully because we don't know if there's a spring in there under tension. Doesn't feel like there is. All right. Not talking to me.
Okay.
Looks like there was grease in there at one point. That's it. So it was bound up on there. So what we're going to do, it revolves on this shaft right here, and it's stuck. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this out, clean that up, put fresh grease in there, and put it back together. And that should fix it. Yeah, so if I just wiggle it back and forth as I pull up on it, it's coming out. The reason why I'm doing this instead of you is because, again, I don't know if there's going to be a spring behind there that's going to go wow. Because this is going to come off suddenly. Yeah, there's definitely a spring in there. I can feel it. The spring is a coil spring like that.
So it can come in and out.
Yeah. So I could see it. Oh yeah. I can see it back behind there. It's a flat spring that has like it's
Coil
it's,
spring.
yeah.
Spring.
But you see, if I go to pull this all the way out, what's going to want to happen is that spring is going to want to go come out of this case. I can see it right there. See it?
You can take it out slowly.
Well, it's still going to go crazy. See it?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to take this all the way out. I'm just going to take it out far enough so I can clean this up a little bit and put a little bit fresh grease on there and then put it right back together. We're not going to mess around with it because, like I said, I don't use this pole starter anyways. It's supposed to be for emergencies when the battery's dead, but the funny thing is, if the battery's dead, the ignition system's not going to really have any juice to run because it's electronic ignition. So, quite frankly, this pole starter is useless in my opinion. All right, so I got grease on there and put this back together. Now it moves freely. So we're going to put that nut back on. Go ahead. All right, don't over tighten it because
Yeah, that's good.
we'll just snap that stud. Ow! That's it.
Wait, isn't
Now that'll stay. See how that when it comes down, it covers this.
Mm-hmm.
That actually helps keep the water from going in there. Now water will still get in here on the top, but nowhere near as much as it was doing before.
Where's the case for that?
Case for
Right
what?
here. Oh, we need to put that on.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, see that? Jumped the gun. Good thing you're here.
Wait,
I got it. All right, go ahead. Put that cover on.
isn't that?
Is there a certain way that goes on?
I think yeah, but it has to go right there. This has to go right there.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems right.
I'm not touching that anymore.
Too late. You already did. Okay. All right.
Pull it. See if it comes.
Yeah. No, something's wrong.
Too tight.
Well, I don't know if that's it or not. Either that or we get this together wrong. See, something's wrong. That's not moving at all. All right, let's take it apart again. We'll take it apart. We'll see if we can't figure out how it works. Oh, you know what?
What?
This might be seized.
Are you gonna take that out? Yeah, because it would come out right now.
Yeah, there's a spring in there. All right, so this little piece right here that's doing this right now was actually, this was on the other back side of this plastic piece, and it shouldn't have been there. That may have just popped in there when we took this cover off and we didn't notice it. And then this cover, really the only way this can go on is in a way so that these two forks on this clip don't interfere with that piece like this. Otherwise, if I try and put this on any other way, I don't think it works. I think the way this is supposed to work is those little fingers right there are what cause this to kick out like that when you pull it. And then this snaps back out of the way. So let's try that. Let's try it that way. Put the nut back on there. Okay,
Good.
let's see.
Yep, it came out.
It doesn't come out though. No, see, something's still wrong.
Do it slowly.
It doesn't. It's not coming out.
Maybe it goes, one of those goes right here, so I can push it out.
Well, we could try it here. Yeah, see?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, try that. Don't tighten it too much yet.
Yeah.
Let's see if it works. Okay, so that works. There we go.
I need to,
But why is this not? Hold on.
we gotta tighten it a lot.
Well, you're gonna have to tighten it though. So if we tighten this, we tighten this, it doesn't work. And if we don't tighten this, this is just going to loosen up over time and fall off. So
You have
that's
a
not good.
locking nut for that?
Well, that wasn't a locking nut that was on there. That's my concern. That's what my concern is. I'm wondering whether or not this is supposed to have grease on the back of it. Right here, this plate. I'm wondering whether or not this isn't supposed to be able to spin freely in here. As soon as that's tightened, it locks right up. Should not do that. This had grease on it right here, you can see. So I think that's supposed to have grease on it again. And clean that up a little bit, put some fresh grease on it, see what happens. Alright, so no matter how much we grease this up, still seems like as soon as we tighten the nut all the way down, this is rubbing way too much. So I put a washer in here, and I bet you that's going to solve the problem, and I'm not quite sure why we would need to do that. Alright, so now with the washer in there, there's a little bit of a space here at the edge of this disc between that plastic and this, which I don't think is going to make a difference. More importantly though, it's the action's working correctly. You can see that finger is coming out, which would grab onto one of these slots right here to turn the engine, and it's retracting, and it's nice, and it's working the way we want it to work, Aiden. So let's put this back on. Let me have one of those screws. I'm going to go down and find a screw to replace the missing one. I think I've got some metric screws this side, so we can fill in this one that's missing in this hole right here. Unless it's snapped off in the hole. No, it's not. Good. All right, I found one. Yeah, before you tighten that one all the way down, get the other ones all started, because if the holes aren't lined up perfectly and that's too tight, then you won't be able to shift it around. All right, Aiden's got all 4 of those little screws tight. We'll give it a test. But yeah, that's why I don't use that. It's crazy tight.
Why?
Why what?
Why is it so hard to do that?
Because it's a single cylinder 600cc, well, almost 600cc engine. The piston's this big around, it's got a lot of compression, and it's just really hard to pull. And sometimes when you go to pull it, even if you can get it to pull, if it is coming up near top dead center and decides to fire, it'll violently go back and kick back on you. I've never been completely sure that I've got the timing, the ignition timing exactly right on this thing. So that might be why it does that. But all I know is I've been doing this before, where I pulled it and had it just violently yank out of my hands, and it wants to rip your fingers out at the knuckles, which, believe it or not, is not a pleasant thing.
Now what are we going to do?
Now we're going to take that carburetor off so we can open it up and see why it is in such lousy shape.
You want to
So what we're going to need is
This.
just the screwdrivers that I've got. If you loosen this one, we can pull this elbow that connects the air box to the input of the carburetor. We can take that off. Alright, so what I was saying before was another issue with this carburetor that had started to develop recently was that the throttle was sticking, so it wouldn't snap back to idle. So when you push the thumb throttle, sometimes it would rev up, and then when you take your finger off the throttle, it would come down, but not all the way back to not all the way back to idle. And that was a new development. So that's going to either be the slider in the carburetor here that goes up and down is sticking, or it could also be in that mechanism up at the top there. But an easy way to tell is going to be to disconnect the linkage from the carburetor here and see what happens. Okay, so the problem we're having right now is we need to get the tank out of here so I can get down and reach the linkage. The linkage, throttle linkage, hooks up on the other side of the carburetor, but I can't do it from the other side because the exhaust pipe is in the way. So with the tank out, it's easy to do. Tank's bolted in by 2 bolts in the back here, which I already have removed, and 2 bolts up in the front underneath this. So I could take this off and get to them real easily, but taking this off involves taking this rack off, And so it turns into a whole major project. But the bolts in question are actually visible or accessible underneath here. I just can't put a socket on them, but I could put an open-end wrench on them, a 10 millimeter. All right, so that plan's not going to work because we've discovered that the bolts are long enough that as you back them out, they start to hit the underside of this plastic right here. So you can't pull them out all the way. And, oh, actually though, you see, it's undone already. So we don't have to pull them all the way out.
But
So
how we can get them back in?
they're in there now. When we slide this back in, all you gotta do is push them down and start them and they'll screw in. We won't take them out all the way. We'll leave them in the gas tank. So try and take that one out the same way, and maybe we're not dead yet. All right, so while Ian works on getting that other bolt backed out, I was able to turn the carburetor this much. This is the choke plunger. So all this does is screw in. So you've got to, it screws into a hole on this side. So you've got to unscrew this and this pulls out. That, with a little bit of finagling, will allow you to now twist the carburetor out of position so that the place where the linkage hooks in, the throttle linkage hooks in on the side here, is now facing up. And once we get the tank out of the way, we'll be able to look right down in this space where the tank was and clearly see how that linkage is hooked up in there so we can unhook it. Once the linkage is unhooked, the whole carburetor will come right out. All right, let's give this a shot.
I was looking at how much the other one was just. This bolt is longer. Daddy, stop.
Whoops. Oh, damn it. What the heck? That's weird.
What?
Gas just started coming out of the coming out of this thing like crazy, which doesn't make sense because it's off. Well, something just happened.
You should have done that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, I need you to stop what you're doing and go get me a gas can. There's one right there. See it? Unbelievable. I can't believe that valve just broke.
Yes, yeah, I was thinking up there with the valve.
Yeah, I know. The whole valve is.
Now we can do it. Daddy,
Get a new four-wheeler?
empty the tank.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're gonna have to empty the tank, otherwise gas will go out all over the place. Once we get the valve out, we'll be able to take a look at it and figure out why it's doing that. Because that's weird that that happened. Let me know if that's getting heavy. Go ahead and put that down. Off to the side so we don't trip all over it.
Maybe you pulled it out.
I did. You know what happened was when I pulled on it, this handle right here pulled out. And I didn't even know that that could come out. Probably not supposed to.
Now I can go back.
Yeah. So the problem with these bolts in the front here is that there's kind of like a little well that they sit down in that fills with mud and dirt and crap, which keeps moisture in there around where they thread into. This one's missing completely. I wouldn't be surprised at all if underneath that dirt what's left of the bolt is in there. It probably snapped off last time I tried to take it out. Now this one's seized. There it is. You see how it turned a little bit and then snapped like nothing. So
Now we have the one on the bottoms.
that's fun.
The other one's on the bottoms.
So now both of these are shot. Now hopefully the ones on the bottom, because they've been protected from the weather a little bit better, won't be completely seized in there.
Do you have a pole?
Do I have a pole?
Pole.
What kind of pole?
Like a pole that I can pull up on this.
Oh, you want to put more leverage on that?
Yeah.
You never do that on a ratchet. That's a good way to break a ratchet. You use what's called a breaker bar, which is the one that doesn't have any ratcheting in it. But you don't need that. You just need muscles.
Let me try the other one.
Let me get this loose enough so I can take it out with my fingers, and then you can go to the other side.
Wait, you did the wrong one. That's the one that I was doing.
I didn't take it off. You had it on this one. I didn't take it off. I didn't take the socket off when you said, oh, try this.
Then let me try it then. Let me try the other one. You loosen that one up. Nope.
Oh, you broke free. Wanna try the other one? Maybe the other one's not as tight.
What are you trying to fix?
We have to take this rack off, to take this plastic thing off, to take the tank out, to get the carburetor out.
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's probably a completely wrong way to do that. I bet you there's any number of ATV mechanics that could probably do this without doing all of this work. They're all smarter than me.
I mean, you're not a ATV mechanic.
There you go. That's my excuse.
And Daddy, this
I'm
weekend
sticking
could
to
fix
it.
my bike?
Yeah, maybe.
Then I could ride it to school Monday. And then ride it back. Nah, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, you're gonna leave it there the whole time you're at the football game away, and
nope.
Come back at night and find that it's gone and it's too dark to ride it anyways.
Oh.
You'd be like, oh, good thing it was stolen because it's too dark for me to ride it anyways. Did you get it?
Yes.
Oh. Aren't you worried about those wires?
Yeah, trying to break Daddy's ATV. Yeah, you can plug them right here.
Those wires don't unplug.
Yes, they do. Daddy, there's these two that unplug.
Okay, those are the headlights. I'm talking about the big cables.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there you go. Talking about the big cables that go to the
no.
winch.
Maybe you can take that out. The same exact bulb that's on that one, and put it on that four-wheeler for you, by the way.
Pull this up over the top of that like I just did. Because we might not even see. All we need to do is get to those bolts. We could care less about having to take this all the way off.
Can you move the tank up a little bit? Tank up. Up. Why are these wires disconnected right here?
All right, so we just pulled the tank out, and now with the tank out, it's real easy to get to this linkage here. There's supposed to be a plastic cover with 3 screws that hold it on over here that's missing, and there should be an O-ring. So it's no wonder that there's a problem with this sticking, although that actually seems to be working pretty well. That doesn't seem to be the source of. No, it seems like it's actually, seems like it's up in here is where the problem is. So we'll have to take that apart, clean it, and lube it, I guess.
Can I take it?
Well, we're gonna.
Sorry.
I don't want to do that right now because I don't want to open the can of worms that might end up being, because you see these screws are rusted. I got a feeling that they might want to snap off.
Need to spray it with the.
Anyways, if we can get to one disaster at a time, I just want to get the carburetor out. So I couldn't get the camera in there while I was working to show how I take this off, but what you have to do is you have to pull the throttle to advance this far enough so that this is about here. Okay, then with a screwdriver you hold this open and then release the throttle, and the slack cable will pop up out of the groove that it sits in on top of here. And when it gets lined up with that slot right there, you can actually grab with needle nose and slide this little cylinder that's in there out. So this is that little piece that I grabbed a hold of and pulled out of here. And in that slot, okay, is where the end of the cable hooks into, and it's got a little pin on the end. So right here, there's a little pin on the end here. And the reason why this is made to come off of this is so that this will be able to fit through this tube, because the cable screws on right here. You can actually see this hex-shaped barrel piece right here actually is what threads onto that. Once you unscrew this from that carburetor and you have that little plug off, then that cable will pull out through this hole right here. And now the carburetor is completely removed from the ATV and ready for me to disassemble and service it.